First offense, 0 on the assignment. Second offense, 0 for the semester and/or course. Thirdly, parents will be notified, or contact the administration. Those are the offenses if you cheat in school. Good evening and welcome to Give Me a Break. I'm Jonathan Carmody. Cheating is just one of the dumbest things a kid can do, and it just leads to the utmost embarrassment and humiliation. For one kid you're about to meet, he had magic hands, and those magic hands led him to seeing Mr. Arrett, the Dean of Lemon Bay. Take a look.
Matt, what do you have to say for yourself?
Well, really disappointed in myself, mainly because I got caught.
What happened?
We were studying for the... Sorry. I started trying, make it so he feels bad for me. She was like, okay, everyone pull out your stuff, because we're going to do a test today. And, wasn't ready, so I wrote down 2 of the words that I were having, like, a hard time spelling.
Well, you wrote it on your hand?
Yeah.
Let me see it. 2 words.
Pretty much, yeah. I didn't even get to look at him at the point.
Explain.
Well, like, I was doing my test. I had my hand like that.
Oh, so you were like this?
Like, not like that, but like that. And I guess she thought I was cheating at the moment. And then she came over and flipped my hand and saw.
Did you know the consequences?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. Let me refresh. 1, 0 on the quiz.
These weren't even on the, like, tests. They were just extra credit bonus questions.
2, if you do it again, 0 for the semester.
Mm-hmm.
And thirdly, Mom and Dad have to be notified.
Please don't call Mom. Okay? She's gonna flip out. Please don't call Mom.
You gonna be alright? I would give you a tissue, but I don't keep them in my office. Sorry about that. Perhaps I should. Come on, suck it up. It's not that bad.
Yeah, it is. I'm gonna flip out.
It's just a call home.
She's gonna be so ashamed of.
These are the consequences for cheating, Matthew. And you're gonna have to pay for what you did. Matthew, I believe you've learned your lesson. I believe that we move on from this point. You know that one more time, 0 for the course. Understood? All right, get on to class. I hope Matthew learned the lesson that you can't get ahead by cutting corners.
I'd rather not cheat again, because it really wasn't worth it. The consequences were way worse than the reward would have been, so I'll try to study a lot more.
That's right. That's correct. That is absolutely correct. You need to study. A lot of people don't study for their tests or exams, and they find different ways to pass their tests. Nowadays, you have those little pens you can hide all the answers from. But it's even just better than looking at a card and seeing what the answers were. But the thing to understand here is this. I mean, cheating is bad. It's not as bad as cheating on your spouse, but for tests and exams, remember that Dayline episode we showed you to where if you want to apply for airports, you gotta be taking a test? Well, they'll give you the answer. That shouldn't have happened. If you pass the test, you'll be good to go. But give them the answers, that's just straight up cheating. And if I was one of the employees that did that, I'd be fired immediately. Like that. But what you have to understand here is, cheating is wrong. It's not just wrong. Because in life, that's in life, if you cheat on because if you maybe you take a test, you cheat on that test, you're going to be fired. It's just that simple. There's no reasoning why you shouldn't be cheating on your tests or exams. No reason for that at all. And believe me, when I was in school, I would never, ever cheat on the test. That's how the worst thing is. You cheat, you get a 0, your paper gets torn up. That's just how it is. But nothing can compare to this next situation. Coming up next, a student who cheats, but then felt girly about it. And possibly, one student was the worst cheater ever, who had two versions of the test, but cheated on the wrong one. How can that be? Please stay with us. I can't believe you cheated on me. I can't believe he cheated on me. No. That's... Sure. That's not the type of cheating we're talking about, where man cheats on a woman, woman cheats on a man. We're talking about the type of cheating where, if you look at it on a purchase paper, you'd be cheating and you're getting 0. This next thing you're about to meet was probably the worst cheater ever. He decided the way he would cheat was that the teacher would give him 2 versions of the test, 2 forms. They all can't cheat on each other. But he had a perfect 100, so why would... Just take a look at this. I don't want to talk. Just watch.
Who do you think this might be from? You have any ideas?
No.
You haven't done anything wrong in any of your classes?
No.
You haven't done anything?
No.
Third period math, you got a perfect 100% on your test.
I get 100 on a lot of tests.
How'd you get the answers?
I wrote them with a pencil.
Smart ass.
What did you look at to get them?
I didn't look at anything.
I knew he was lying. I knew there was so much more to the story. So you're telling me you did not cheat?
Who else would get 100 next to me?
I don't know.
I bet no one did. There's no one around me that smart.
I'm not buying that. I'm going to call Mr. Murphy and have him come down so we can work this out.
No.
Yeah.
Well, once you call Mr. Murphy down, I pretty much knew I was I didn't know what else to do. I was just like...
Nick is adamant about the fact that he did not cheat. Those answers just came to him through natural phenomena.
Maybe.
Don't be shy now, because Mr. Murphy's here, Nick.
Yes, that's what I said.
You got 100% of the answers right, but for the wrong test.
Okay.
He gives out 2 forms of the test so that you all can't cheat off each other. Want to explain that?
Didn't happen.
That's very interesting, but obviously if you have all the right answers to the wrong form of the test, you must have cheated or gotten the right answer somehow from someone.
Was there anyone around me that had 100?
Absolutely. The person directly next to him had 100.
It's a coinkydink.
So you really want us to believe that it's just coincidence that you had all the right answers to the wrong test?
Yeah. I'm not wanting you to believe, I want you to know.
Enough. How did you get the answers to the other tests?
Well, hypothetically, what would be the consequences if I were to cheat?
It's a 0 on the test.
All I get is a 0 on the test. That's what we got in the first place if I didn't cheat, so...
I happened to glance over and look at this kid's answers, but he did not give me the answers and did not support my wrongdoings.
which were, this time is a 0. If it happens again, it will be an F for the course.
Alright.
Okay, back to class, Nick.
Alright. Mr. Murphy's pretty sneaky, having 2 versions of the test. Next time I just gotta make sure I'm cheating on the right test.
No, sweetie. No. Study. You study. The night before, 2 days before. Even someone who would be girly about cheating on the test.
It's time for a checking account that does more. Checking that gets you back on
I
your
don't
phone with
support
mobile
people
phone
that cheat
protection,
on tests.
back on your feet with zero
Like I said
copay
before,
checkout,
I would never cheat
and
on
back
tests,
on
and
the
if
road
I
with
did,
24/7 roadside assistance.
I regret it.
Power protected checking at Security Service.
This kid, it was like,
Sorry, my name is Jay.
Jay?
Teacher found a cheat sheet under a student's desk. Let's see if he fesses up or makes me work for it. I'm gonna take Steve with me so he can see firsthand how we deal with students in different situations.
Come on, wanna go down and have a chat?
My tactic with Jay was to sit down and use the actual vocab words to get him to admit what they may or may not have done. It seems like we have a pretty contentious situation here. You look a little disheveled today. Vocab words.
When I sat down and he started saying those words, I knew exactly what he was talking about.
Is that your cheat sheet there?
My cheat sheet, it was like the most professional cheat sheet anybody would ever see. 20 words on it, neat handwriting and everything. Can't believe I got caught.
Is there anything you'd like to profess right now?
I cheated
Why did you cheat?
because I didn't study.
You cheated before?
No.
So you've never not studied for a test?
Well, I have, but I didn't cheat for it.
You just took the F. You took it like a man.
So you like a man, yeah.
Then why didn't you take this like a man?
Feeling girly at the time.
You're feeling girly.
My grades in that class are terrible, but I, give it a little boost.
Your grades are terrible. Maybe because you're not studying?
Maybe.
Well, I mean, did you give any thought to what would happen if you got caught?
No.
First offense. 0 on the assignment. And then you're subject to disciplinary action.
Like a detention, right?
Like a very long detention. Extremely long. You're gonna have a 120 detention tomorrow. Any questions?
No.
Mr. Quinn, you have any questions?
Not right now.
All right. Jay, go back to class.
Some moments are better with people.
Diagnosis, anxiety. Begin deep breathing.
Therapy is one of them. Choose Alma for real human-to-human support. Better with people, better with Alma.
alright. That's enough cheating for today, but we all know what happens. Coming up, a 2-part report from Lyncher about a murder that happened. Details and what was the cause of the murder and who was the victim, who was the killer. Please stay with us. Let's go on an adventure right now to Malibu, Florida. The case of Donald Scott. All the elements to a story is the plot and unforgettable characters. When making a movie or making a story, making a movie, it's all about a great story with unforgettable characters. An example of what Beauty and the Beast is. A great story and great characters. But the characters you'll see in this story had to be a millionaire, Donald Scott, and the widow. But who do you believe? Do you believe the widow or do you believe the victims? It's a tragedy that was unexpected. Tonight, we're going to play it for you step by step. We're gonna piece it all together step by step, piece by piece. You two who can decide who was the killer and who was the widow. Here's Lynn Sure.
Yes, this is the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. We have a gunshot victim here.
My husband was murdered, right in front of me.
My men went in to take some dope off the streets. They went in to arrest a crook. Unfortunately, a man died.
They wanted his property, and they were going to use any means they could to get it.
This is the story about a man and his land, and questions that have been raised about who wanted it and the lengths they might go to get it.
Donald Scott was killed on this stunning California ranch in October. His widow and others charge that Scott was a victim of a law that was distorted and authority misused by those who were sworn to protect him.
This was Donald Scott's private paradise, 200 acres in Malibu, California, amidst the Santa Monica Mountains. Estimated value, $5 million or more. He called the property the Trails End Ranch. At 62, thanks to a family inheritance, Donald Scott was a millionaire, a multimillionaire. In earlier years, he had the dashing good looks of a Hollywood leading man who enjoyed fast cars and guns. He dated debutantes and movie stars, and he drank too much. But friends like Tim Randa say he wasn't trying to impress anyone.
It was fun. He knew how to have a good time. And he wasn't an eccentric. He was a regular guy, and that's all he ever wanted to be, was one of the regular guys. And he was.
2 years ago, Donald met Frances Plant, a native Texan. She was half his age. They used to joke he could adopt Frances rather than marry her.
And the age difference didn't bother you?
I never really thought about it. I always told him he was 61 going on 16, you know, he just had all this energy, and we did a lot of singing, a few more beers than we should have had. We told jokes, we laughed, we were really happy.
In his last months, Donald's eyes had begun to fail, and the liquor was taking a toll on his health. Some said he'd become reclusive. Frances said he just enjoyed being on the ranch.
Trails End Ranch was his baby. He loved it. He took care of it. This is what Trails End Ranch is all about. Turn around.
Oh my God.
This is it.
Oh,
It seemed the perfect life. Quiet and simple, if slightly eccentric and quirky. But before long, their private Garden of Eden would turn into Paradise Lost.
Good morning. I'd like to welcome you all to Rancho Sierra Vista Sat. We will, on behalf of the National Park Service.
At first, attention focused on Donald Scott's neighbors, the National Park Service. In the 30 years since he bought his ranch, the Santa Monica Mountains National Recreation Area grew up around him, with the National Park Service buying up every bit of land possible. Some say that made Trails End a prime candidate for purchase. Tim Thomas was a park ranger here for 12 years.
From what you know, did the National Park Service want Donald Scott's property?
From congressionally intended land acquisitions through the Land Protection Plan, yes. And from the resource values that were on there, yes.
Tim, shop like a billionaire. Our hotel is the best in the world.
I hope you enjoy Thailand.
Please.
David Gackenbach is superintendent of the park.
Is it fair to say that you wanted to acquire the Trails End Ranch?
It's one of our fee acquisition parcels, yes. But it has not been a high priority on this part.
Right.
But Tim Thomas says the National Park Service always viewed the Scott property as crucial, and not only for its natural resources. Trails End Ranch sits right next to a popular campsite in the park, and it's bordered on two other sides by Park Service land.
So this was a very important piece that was missing from the big jigsaw puzzle.
It's right in the middle, right in the middle.
Tim Miranda says the Park Service tried several times to talk with Scott about selling. The answer was always no, and Scott backed it with money.
He told them at that time that he had $1 million in the bank waiting for them to come at him because they were never going to get it because he had the money to fight them, and they knew it.
He had a feeling that, it was just a feeling that they were going to try to get the land from him somehow. He thought that they wanted the land to the point of where they would kill him for this land.
He said that?
Yeah.
Donald Scott may have foreseen his own violent death, but as it turns out, it was not at the hands of the National Park Service.
505 Shoemaker?
2 years ago, the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department received an anonymous tip about Donald Scott's wife. Captain Larry Waldy runs the narcotics unit.
What was the original tip exactly?
Just the original tip that an individual, Francis Plant, was flashing large amounts of money, driving expensive cars.
Let me just interrupt for a second. When you say flashing large amounts of money and driving expensive cars, is that unusual for the Malibu area?
I really can't say, not being from the Malibu area, you know, and I don't know what they spend out there.
The information on Francis Plant's activities in Malibu was filed away for nearly a year, and it was a difficult year. LA County was in a fiscal crisis. With the upcoming budget $1 billion short, the Sheriff's Department was being hit hard. So, like other law enforcement agencies around the country, it relied more on the proceeds of drug investigations to supplement the budget.
Finding drugs on Donald Scott's property would have enabled the Sheriff's Department to seize the ranch, sell it, and then take the profits. It's called asset forfeiture, and the laws allowing it where drugs are involved are controversial. In fact, it is now charged that asset forfeiture was exactly what the Sheriff's Department had in mind when they reopened the case a year after the original tip.
We then got a tip from a reliable informant that, in fact, that marijuana, large amounts of marijuana were growing there.
Sheriff's Deputy Gary Spencer decided to confirm the tip with aerial reconnaissance. At his request, DEA agent Charles Stowell flew over the Scott property and said in this statement that he saw 50 marijuana plants growing in a grove of trees. Seeking further proof and eager to check out Donald and Francis themselves, the Sheriff's Department sent ground teams from the National Park Service and the U.S. Border Patrol to spy on the Scotts. Even though their surveillance turned up no marijuana, the L.A. Sheriff's Department got a search warrant.
Let's talk about the morning of October 2nd. Exactly how many people were involved?
27 people were at the scene.
It sounds like a very big crowd for 50 marijuana plants.
There were at least 5 different agencies. We had the National Park Service there because we worked with them in dealing with the marijuana eradication program. LAPD was there and DEA was there. Coupled with that is the National Guard that we worked with also in the marijuana eradication program, and they were there to assist in that effort and also to learn. So the entry team was first set in place and to go to the house. They knocked on the door. California
We were in bed asleep, and the house started shaking, and the dogs were going crazy, and I got up as fast as I could to get dressed, and I was going to the door, and I see this face looking at me. At that point, the door burst open, and I just saw all these guns. These men had guns, and I didn't know who they were or what they were doing, and I don't know. I just screamed, "Don't shoot me, don't kill me." And I was backing into my living room. My husband heard me. He came running out of the back of the house into the living room. I heard him say, "Francis, are you all right?" He had his gun pointed above his head. He looked at me, and the next thing, someone yelled, "Put your gun down, put your gun down, put your gun down." Bang, bang, bang. My husband fell down right in front of me.
Minutes later, a sheriff's deputy phoned the supervisor, Captain Waldy, to report what happened. In police parlance, a 927D, a dead body. The deputy was unaware a recording device was attached to the phone.
Captain DeWitt here.
Yeah.
I'm on a search warrant with the Hidden Hills crew on this marijuana eradication thing.
Yes.
And they just, looks like 927D here.
At the location?
Yeah.
Some body there?
No, we put him down.
We killed him?
Yeah.
The rest of that morning, deputies searched the property.
This is the Grove, just down from the house, where, according to the search warrant, approximately 50 marijuana plants were said to be growing, suspended from these large trees. That's apparently a new technique using ropes to hoist the plants so they can't be detected. But when officials got down here later that day, they didn't find what they'd expected. Was any marijuana found?
No.
Any trace of marijuana?
No, but we found some lines suggesting the block and tackle method on some of the trees in that general vicinity, yes.
Where are those ropes and lines now?
I don't know. They're probably still on the land or taken into evidence, depending upon how the investigators looked at that.
If they're so important, why not take them? And if they're not important, then why bring them up?
Well, would I take the water tower? Would I take the trails? Would I take everything else that indicated that marijuana was growing? I wouldn't do that.
It just sounds as if you're dangling it out there when, in fact, you haven't got any proof at all.
The rope is dangling. I don't dangle. I take it as an element out there, that's all.
Do you believe there was marijuana on that property?
Yes, I do.
Was there pot growing on this property?
Never. Never, ever.
Why do you think the National Park Service and the sheriff's deputies came to your house that morning?
Well, it wasn't to serve a search warrant.
What really did happen that October morning? Was it motivated by the desire for land? By the demands of a depleted budget? Or was it a legitimate attempt to root out drugs? Donald Scott's death left a host of unanswered questions, but one California official has spent months investigating the case.
When we come back, that California official speaks out for the very first time. Was there pot growing? What really happened? Lynn Sure concludes our story. Stay with us. Returning to our story, Donald Scott is dead. His friends and his widow say that he was shot by the police, but the government denies it. Now, new evidence is being popped up. Will it hold up to find out who the real killer is? And what, if any, would question us, who do we want to believe? Who do you believe? Do you believe the widow, or do you believe the police? Once again, here's Lynn Sure.
Donald Scott did not have to die. He should not have died. He's an unfortunate victim in the war on drugs.
Michael Bradbury is the district attorney for Ventura County. His investigators have been studying the Donald Scott case for nearly 6 months. Their findings reveal a poorly planned operation based on incomplete and false information. And their report concludes that the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department was motivated in part to seize and forfeit the ranch for the government. The process, known as asset forfeiture, allows the state to profit by confiscating the assets of known drug dealers. Bradbury says it was forfeiture that motivated one sheriff's deputy, Gary Spencer, to push a drug investigation too far and to mislead a judge into signing a search warrant.
He provided misinformation to the magistrate, and he left out a lot of very material facts that would have indicated to the magistrate that, in fact, marijuana was not being cultivated there.
According to D.A. Bradbury, the most significant facts left out of the search warrant involved Drug Enforcement Agent Charles Stowell, enlisted to confirm the original tip about drugs. Remember, it was Stowell's claim that while flying at low altitude over the Scott property, he'd spotted 50 marijuana plants hanging from trees that had formed the basis for the search warrant. That's a claim upheld by Captain Larry Waldy, who runs the Sheriff's Narcotics Unit.
You're convinced that the DEA investigator believed and told your folks that he saw 50 marijuana plants, no question about it. He was convinced, you were sure.
The information that I have, he was absolutely convinced that he had seen 40 to 50 plants growing in a particular form on the ground, which was the hard evidence that we felt we needed to go seek that search warrant. Yes.
There is virtually no way that Stowell could have seen through that canopy of trees. It's like a rainforest. It's impenetrable.
What would be the motivation for lying?
I think Agent Stowell was under tremendous pressure from the Los Angeles Sheriff's Office in the person of Deputy Spencer to come up with the opinion that marijuana was being cultivated on the ranch. As a matter of fact, after Stowell initially said that he had seen marijuana, he called Spencer back and said, "I am not comfortable with you using my name, and you have to corroborate me."
So you're saying that Agent Stowell did the flyover, probably didn't see anything, but said that he had seen marijuana plants, and then the next day said, "Look, I'm really not comfortable with this"?
Correct.
Bradbury added that contrary to normal practice, Stowell took no photos during his flyover. And he said the ground surveillance ordered to corroborate Stowell and carried out by Border Patrol agents was against the law.
Border Patrol normally used for marijuana searches?
No, their mission is, of course, to search for and apprehend illegal aliens.
Is that illegal for the Sheriff's Department to bring in the Border Patrol to do that?
Yes, I think clearly it's a civil trespass.
Neither Spencer nor Stowell would talk to 2020. But the DA's report found that Border Patrol agents were unable to confirm marijuana on the Scott property. So Deputy Spencer went back to the informant, who this time reported that 40 pounds of marijuana were about to be shipped out of the ranch. Spencer and Stowell figured that yield equates to about 50 plants.
And Stowell said, okay, that is sufficient corroboration.
So the same agent who said he saw marijuana and then changed his mind hears this new information and says, okay, fine, maybe I did see it. Is that basically what he said?
What he said was, you may now use my name as having seen marijuana in the flyover.
Which is exactly what Deputy Spencer of the Sheriff's Department did. He obtained a search warrant without ever mentioning Agent Stowell's uncertainty about his aerial observations. Deputy Spencer also neglected to include the failure of the Border Patrol to eyeball marijuana from the ground. According to the DA, these omissions are a clear violation of the law.
When you keep that information out of a warrant, you deprive the judge of making an informed decision. And in fact, that can, and in this case did, in our opinion, invalidate the warrant.
But the financial stakes were so high, Bradbury says, that deputies continued to push the investigation.
Do you believe that the intent was to kill Donald Scott?
No, not at all. I mean, there was certainly discussion among the deputies about forfeiting the land if, in fact, drugs or marijuana was found. And there was even some joking, and I think it was clearly joking by Spencer to National Park folks that, you know, maybe we'll give you this ranch property. But absolutely no intention of killing Scott. I think that this was an absolute shock to everybody involved that there was a shooting.
Particularly, according to DA Bradbury, since the sheriff's deputies knew from surveillance reports that neither Donald nor Francis would be a threat. As for the shooting itself, the DA cannot confirm Francis's insistence that Donald Scott was simply trying to comply with orders to drop his gun when deputies shot him.
You're saying your husband never pointed the gun at the officers?
No, never. He never had a chance. No, he never had a chance to anything. It was just bang, bang, bang.
Donald Scott came out with a gun in hand and pointed his weapon at the deputy sheriff. They yelled several times, "Don, don't shoot, put the gun down, put the gun down." He refused to do that, and unfortunately they were forced to fire, and tragically he was killed.
If he was supposed to be putting the gun down, how can you say that he was aiming at them rather than simply complying with their order?
They told me the man pointed a gun at them. I take that at face value, and I accept that, and they were forced to fire.
From everything we can determine, we're convinced that Donald Scott was not about to have a shootout with sheriff's deputies. It's very likely that he was in fact trying to comply with the request to put the gun down.
So why did they shoot him?
Well, as he lowered the gun, if it was pointed at them, they had every right to shoot him. At that point, you can't second-guess the officers when they have a loaded gun pointed at them.
So you're saying the officers did what they had to do? And the shooting, how would you then term the shooting? An accident, an unfortunate accident? What?
No, it wasn't an accident. It was an intentional killing that was justifiable. But I think that begs the question. The crux of this issue is that those deputy sheriffs shouldn't have been there in the first place.
Because, says Bradbury, there was absolutely no evidence of marijuana growing on the property. Remember those ropes and lines Captain Waldy insisted his men had seen? The ones indicating marijuana plants had been hoisted up in the trees?
There's no evidence that there were ropes and lines there. There was one cable that appeared to be used to keep the tree from falling into some power lines, and that was near the house.
He told me there were ropes and lines there. Nothing.
No.
As for the Park Service, the agency Donald Scott feared most from the beginning, the DA's report concludes that their involvement in the drug operation was minor, that there is no evidence they played a significant role in the forfeiture plan.
I know that there were some suggestions that they were part of a conspiracy to seize this ranch property. We found absolutely no evidence of that and believe that that was not the case.
But what did the Park Service stand to gain from this operation had it been a success?
I think that the Park Service recognized that if in fact that land went on the auction block, they'd have an opportunity to bid for it.
Frances remains unconvinced. She says too much bad blood exists between private landowners in the park and the agency. In fact, land acquisition policies of the Park Service across the United States have been criticized for years as being heavy-handed and in some cases illegal.
I will never be able to be convinced that they came here to serve a search warrant. You know? No way.
Evidence from the DA's investigation seems to support that concern. According to DA Bradbury, at a briefing before the raid, officers from the Sheriff's Department passed out these documents: a property appraisal of the 200-acre Scott Ranch, and a map, including notations by Agent Stowell that a neighboring 80-acre site had recently sold for $800,000. The district attorney argues there is no reason why a search for drugs would require such information, other than if they had a motive to forfeit the Scott property.
Was the primary motivating force in this case, as far as your investigation determined, get the property or get the drug?
Our opinion is that they were both goals of this operation.
When a narcotics officer or a law enforcement officer is put in a position of being a revenue producer, does that somehow corrupt the system?
I think it does, personally, yes.
Bradbury thinks that's exactly what happened at the Trails End Ranch.
I think this is simply a case of a good officer, very aggressive, who lost his moral compass, saw an opportunity to have his star rise rapidly in the department by seizing a significant asset.
We have never sought any assets. We have never done any type of operation with the focal point of being assets. It's crooks, it's dope, and if you get an asset, it's a byproduct and nothing else.
Today, Frances takes little pleasure from this land. The memories of her husband and his love for these hills have now dissolved into the painful reality of one morning in October.
I'm not selling off into the sunset with Donald Scott, so I'm stuck here, and I'm going to stay here and keep the land just like Donald did all these years.
You are determined, you told me earlier, not to sell this land at all now. Not to anyone.
This land is not for sale. God owns this land. There's no money that can buy this land.
Lee, this seizure law seems to have wide opportunity for abuse and nasty accident.
Well, that's precisely what the DA told us. In fact, he said law enforcement agencies should be much more vigilant when they give out these search warrants so that this kind of thing won't happen. In fact, he said he blames his own department. They didn't ask enough questions, and in the future, he says they will.
Now, what's happening now with the widow Frances and the land?
Well, it's not clear that she can hold on to it, even though, of course, she desperately wants to. That's because Donald Scott had a previous wife, a former wife, and several children, And the inheritance situation is such that she won't get everything, and she may not be able to afford to hold on to it.
Now, what about the officers who were incriminated in the DA's report?
Well, Deputy Spencer is still on active duty. There has been no disciplinary action taken. The Sheriff's Department says they're just looking at the report right now. The DA, however, says that his findings will appear before at least one grand jury, and the DEA is also reviewing the report.
Thank you, Nate.
All right. I'm going to give you my take on this when we come back. You may not like what I have to say, or you may like it or may not like it. Stay with us. Now, here's what I have to say about this case. You know, you might be deciding like, okay, who was telling the truth, who was lying. But if it was taken by a lie detector test, almost every party would agree. Every party would agree to take that lie detector test. If it passed, even if it meant their jobs. So, if this was... So maybe all a talk show, like Steve Wilkos. Excuse me. And I had a card out like this saying, okay, you know, if you were to pass this lie detector test, what do you think would happen? And, you know, it'd be a question answer like, you know, this, and that, and all the other things. And you'd be like, let's bring out the widow. I mean, the first guest I have on that talk show would be the widow. Ask her, Lane's like, you plan on selling the land and all that kind of stuff, and saying, and of course you'd be like, you also took a lie detector test concerning all this, and that. Then when it came down to the lie detector test part, all the people came in, all the friends came in. It'd be coming down to some questions. So the widow, that went on the report to take a lie detector test. And we would say that Dan Ribicoff would administer the lie detector test. So the widow, we asked you, do you believe there was marijuana on your property or on your land? You said no. Did you ever grow marijuana? Nah. Be a wrong question. Because for lie detector tests, you have to ask the specifics of the case. So it'd be like this. We asked you, before Donald Scott's murder, have you and him ever planted drugs on your property? You answered no. Before Donald Scott's murder, did you ever take drugs with Donald Scott? You answered no. During your time with Donald Scott, have you ever used illegal drugs? You answered no. After Donald Scott's death, did you ever plant marijuana on your property? You answered no, and the results for your lie detector test came back all the same, and it came back that you told the truth. Now, if you were to be aware of that detective, now if he came back and now the drug test problem, we say, hey, we gave you a drug test, and the results of your drug test is you came up clean. We gave you your test and it said negative. So you passed that drug test with flying colors. Now moving on to the lie detector test part. This time be for the detective. Detective, you came up here, you took a lie detector test, and your boss told us beforehand that it would be best if you took this test, even if it meant costing your job. To start play out. Detective, we gave you a lie detector test. Sorry. We asked you, during your time on the force, did you ever witness any marijuana grown on Donald Scott's property? You answered no. During your helicopter search, did you ever see marijuana grown on Donald Scott's property before his murder? You answered no. Did you shoot Donald Scott? You answered no. Have you in any way witnessed Donald Scott or any other person use marijuana? You answer no, and the results for all the questions came back all the same, and it came back that the detective, it'd be like this. It'd like in some parts to where, if you watch Steve Loco show, you probably know what I'm talking about, so let me start over. Let me replay the scenario. Be like this. We asked you, have you ever witnessed Donald Scott roll marijuana during your time investigating this? You answered no. You told the truth. You did not tell the truth. Did you ever witness the widow use marijuana? You answered no. You told the truth. Have you ever witnessed somebody? Have you ever witnessed one of Donald Scott's friends using illegal drugs? You answered no. You told the truth. Did you ever call Border Control? Did you ever call Border Patrol to look for marijuana? You answered no. You did not tell the truth. Are you fabricating the story that Donald Scott grew marijuana on his property? You answered no, and you did not tell the truth. So in some cases, that detective would be telling the truth in some part, and the rest of the part of the test he'd be lying. Now for cut scores, you'd have to have a -3 to fail, a +3 to fail, +6 to pass, a -6 to fail. So all the minuses would be coming to extreme deception indicated. So if I had to guess who would be telling the truth, the widow would probably be the victim. The widow would be telling the truth. And the detective would be kicked off the force because of what happened. Now, it wouldn't be fair, but, you know, it's what it is what it is. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. And finally tonight, remember Super Bowl 1999? If you were around in 1999, you might have been around to witness a brand new TV program on Fox called Family Guy. An adult-only show containing Peter Griffin, Peter, Lois, Stewie, Meg, Chris, and Brian Griffin. The Griffins. The show's been on for years. The show's been on for over 20 years. But the question is, who is the guy behind it? The man you're about to meet created the show, and now Fox Files got inside the files. Here's Chris Cuomo.
This Super Bowl Sunday, we'll see who's got the goods to be the best. And Fox is hoping to score a touchdown of its own with this guy. His name is MacFarlane, Seth MacFarlane. And he joins Team Fox as the creative force behind the cutting-edge animated sitcom Family Guy.
That's what we're hoping, is it'll be the kind of show where you can tune in and you won't know what to expect.
Family Guy is about the life of the Griffin clan.
They're coming from such radically different directions, each one of them.
Promise me, Peter.
It's headed up by a politically incorrect pop.
Pop of alcohol is going to touch these lips tonight. Hey, who wants to play drink the beer? Right here.
Sort of an animated Archie Bunker.
All right, what do I win? Another beer.
Peter's a father. He's basically the quintessential loudmouth New Englander.
Chris, that's it. I'll go on welfare.
Who talks before he thinks.
You have any disabilities on your record? Oh, I didn't have gas for the first time until I was 30. What the hell was that?
There's a sensitive and supportive wife.
Peter, we need to talk about this welfare thing.
2 teenagers and a dog, if you can call him that.
6,000 chicken vaginas with sauce.
And a sausage McMuffin, please.
But the show's secret weapon is a diabolical baby named Stewie.
Hello, Mother.
He sort of fancies himself much better, superior to those around him.
Now, I offer you one last chance for deliverance.
He's actually capable of backing up his arguments with real weapons.
Return my mind control device, or be destroyed.
At only 25, Seth is the image of the 90s Hollywood hotshot.
Do it for you?
Young and rich, with a deal worth $2.5 million.
It hasn't really sunk in at all. Gladly, do the same job for much less.
Seth is drawn since he was 2 years old, so it's no surprise that after he graduated from the Rhode Island School of Design, he went to work for Hanna-Barbera. But it was an 8-minute short of Family Guy that prompted Fox to pair him up with King of the Hill producer David Zuckerman. Seth's producing style is hands-on. He writes show scripts and voices 3 of the main characters.
Lois, it's time you started living like the piece of Schmidt you are.
So where does a 25-year-old guy who writes about killer babies get his sense of humor?
Your life, however, is more like a box of active grenades.
During a break in production, Fox Files took a trip back home to find out if Seth's humor is really all in the family.
Was he always a very funny kid?
Yeah, he was. I'm a very funny mother.
When you look at that family and you see the different characters, do you know anyone like that?
I thought it was kind of funny at the fact that the little boy constantly wants to kill his mother.
Did he get in any trouble for his drawing?
Yeah.
What kind of stuff?
He was the cartoonist for the school paper, and the character in his cartoon is taking communion. The comment underneath said, "Could I have fries with that, please?"
And Seth can still remember how a local priest reacted to that cartoon.
Dear Seth, shame on you for insulting the Almighty God and those who love him. Signed, Father Flynn.
Hey, man, your clock won't flush.
We asked him if shocking people is his game plan with the Family Guy.
If it's funny, we'll put it in, but we never have to just piss somebody off.
All of a sudden, you get a big contract thrown at you. Do you feel like now, I got some cash in the bank?
Come on, buddy, I got a Mercedes, about it. That's
jumping right in,
but that's it. Just for safety reasons.
And we couldn't help but ask Mrs. McFarland what she and Seth's father, Ron, thought about their son's new bank account.
Ron and I started planning our retirement.
Have you discussed with Seth the responsibility that a child has to do the right thing by the parents?
Oh,
i.e., boat, fancy, expensive vacations?
Yeah, not yet, but after you leave, we're going to talk about that.
Before we left, I got Seth to do my portrait.
Go heavy on the hair. Don't go light on the hair.
And Fox Files got a taste of what the McFarlands call humor, with a pair of old panties. We helped make Perry the butt of a long-standing family joke.
Now, I hope those aren't yours.
We had a guest who left these at our house.
A large guest.
And then the next day, I found them wrapped around a package of boneless chicken in our freezer.
Back in L.A., the Family Guy is getting its finishing touches. So we asked Seth, in a battle between Bart and Stewie, who would win?
Stewie actually has an arsenal. I don't think Bart would have a chance.
Damn you all!
Family Guy premieres next Sunday after the Super Bowl, right here on Fox.
Wow. Super cool. And if you were around...
Now, Seth MacFarlane.
If you were out to the Super Bowl and watched Family Guy, you might have covered your child's ears while you were watching. Alright. Here's a sneak peek of what we got of what our Wednesday's broadcast. I promise you next week we're going to catch you up on some Project Baltimore stories. So here's a preview.
Tonight,
our mission is to put the IRS out of business.
a taxpayer's fantasy, playing by the rules and not paying any taxes.
We are not tax evaders. We are tax avoiders.
Private Connection Society, how many direct your call?
For a fee, this company says it would tell you how not to pay taxes. The IRS says
They're being hoodwinked by people who are out to make money, period, in the story.
Lynn Sher and 2020's hidden cameras expose a tax gospel that's lured thousands of gullible people on taxes. A great idea or a great hoax? Tonight on Tax Scam USA.
That's on a Wednesday. That's all for this edition of Give Me a Break Monday going into Tuesday. We'll see you again for Tax Scam USA. Give Me a Break Wednesday. And I'm sorry I didn't get to do Super Bowl Sunday, but we're going to make up for that. That thing right there was a makeup for Super Bowl Sunday, for that special Sunday I was going to plan on doing, so I'm sorry about that. But obviously, YouTube ain't give me a break. Stop bullying, speak up. Concentration, not strength. No jaywalking. Your body, your choice. And please, take care of yourself and each other. Respect all others. Respect your mom and dad. Honor thy father. Honor thy mother. Have a good night.